Well, welcome back to Hillbilly Shipwright. This is where we've been building our third boat in our three-boat series from Model Shipways there. This is the Muscongus Bay Lobster Smack. In our last video, we did our tow rails. We got those on, and along with our little drain holes there for draining the water off the deck. And we also have our rub rails on, and we put in our fair leads and filed those little grooves in. So it doesn't seem like we got a lot done, but anything in wooden boat building takes a lot of time. So you just take your time and get it right, or as right as you can get it, you know, and just be careful and observant and see if you can look out for little problems that come down, maybe coming down the path. I think we've got everything sorted, so we're in good shape there. So that's going to lead us up to step 22, our Samson post. Yes, step 22. So let's jump over to the bench over here and start working on our Samson post. Okay, so here we are at step 22, our Samson post. That part can be found, or parts can be found on sheet 14. This is the stout post on the foredeck that anchors the aft end of the bowsprit. It has a round bar through it on which to belay lines. Remove the post pieces from the carrier sheet and remove the char. File or saw a shallow groove along the marks across both pieces. These will form a hole when the halves are glued together. Make sure that these grooves meet. Open the hole slightly using a broach. I think we'll use a drill bit. Correcting the hole if needed. That's concerning. Use your broach set until the hole fits a 1/16 inch brass rod. Bevel the corners and top of the post at 45 degrees. And finish sand the sides of the post. And then we go on to make our piece of brass rod, which is going to be going through the post there. And that's what it's supposed to look like when we're done. Seems simple and straightforward enough. So sheet 14, we have it here, and there is our Samson post. So we have two halves here that we're going to have to put together. And then, of course, you're going to need your brass rod that came with the kit. That's the 16th inch rod. Seems to me, it just seems a little large, but I have to keep reminding myself that this is a much larger model than I'm usually building. So let's go ahead and get our posts out. Hopefully without breaking anything. There we go. There they are. So they say remove the char. Now, one of the things that I'm interested in knowing before I start doing that is how this relates to our the hole in the deck when it comes to us putting it in. As you can see there, we are going to have to file some shoulders in just as they have done already for us there on the forward and aft facing profile, which I don't mind because I do have this gap here on mine, and I'm hoping that it'll cover it all up. We will see when we get there. All right, so we need to sand the char off of these. And I'm going to use the same method that I have before. And I'm just going to do the top sections here that extend above the deck. I don't think that's all that necessary down below there. So, yeah. I do want to make sure that I'm square. Not important to get everything off at this point, because I think it's better to go ahead and glue this up and then finish getting all the char off of it. But I do need some good straight reference areas there to align our two halves together. Just lightly sand it just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up the other piece, and then we'll look at putting our groove in. So I don't always trust the the laser cuts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up these shoulders here on the bottom of the posts, and I want to see if the line is in the right place. And it looks like it is. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to take a triangular file here, and we're going to deepen that a little bit using that line. As our guide, just like so. I do worry sometimes that their laser goes a bit deeper than I would really like for it to, but so when we put these together, if you can see that, we should have our reference there for the hole that needs to be drilled. And it's kind of nice that they did that, because it helps guide you so that you're not, anybody that's ever tried to drill a hole straight through your pieces there, you know that having the exit hole center of the piece that you're working on and at the same distance from the top of it there is kind of tricky without a drill press. So yeah, so now we're ready to glue this up. Let me give it some glue and everything ready, and we'll put this together. So it's not going to take much glue, and I don't want to fill my slot up there. So I'll be careful there. Probably would help if I was up where you could see what I'm doing. I tend to use more glue than I need to, but you know, whatever it doesn't want will squeeze right out, so that's not that big of a deal. Got a clamp, gonna need that. So with our glue on, we just need to line up our shoulders here. Now the funny thing about yellow wood glue, when you press this together, it grabs. So don't completely press it together until you got your alignment exactly where you want it. Probably don't need a clamp, but I'm gonna put a clamp on it anyway. Doesn't really look like I'm square. We just have to correct that with some sanding. Yeah. So we're gonna have to give this a few minutes to dry up. If there's anything sticking out, we'll just get that off. And you should have a little bit of squeeze out. There we go. Let's give this a minute or so, and then we'll continue working on it. So here we have it all glued up, and yeah, I mean, you know, as with all kit parts, it's going to require a little bit of work here. So I do need to true it up. Little parts are hard to deal with, so just take your time and do it. So I'm going to true up the edges here where all the char is. And you know, if I break this, then it's fairly easy assembly to replicate out of some scrap pieces. So it wouldn't break my heart, but I definitely wouldn't want to break it. A lot of breaking going on there, huh? So yeah, I need to go ahead and sand it until all the char disappears. We'll see what we got left after that. So just looking at our post here, I haven't removed all the char on it, but it's all going to get painted white anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. It's just as long as everything's flush, we'll be fine. And we still have our hole there that we filed in. So we have our reference for drilling that. One thing I did notice, though, is that mine is more rectangular in shape there than square, and theirs looks more square. So I think what I'm going to do, because it is too thick to go down in the hole there, as you can see, I think I'm going to flat sand it, but I need to sand both sides. Otherwise, our cross post there, or piece that goes in, is not going to be it's not going to be in the middle. So I am going to thin it out. And of course, you got to sand both sides. So if you take 4 or 5 strokes on one side, do 4 or 5 strokes on the opposite. And I'll just do this until I get it get it to fit, I guess. Which is going to leave me with a little gap there. I'm not going to be able to, I'm going to have to fill that on our boat, but that's a small thing. We're just going to keep checking until we get there, I guess. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. I don't really like that thick rectangular look. I want it more square. Now, when you go to sand little pieces like this, if you just hold them in the middle and put even pressure on them, they'll kind of rotate back and forth so that you're removing the same amount all the way across the piece. Whereas if you hold it firm, then whatever pressure you're putting on without allowing that piece to swivel with you, you start to put an angle in. Just a little tip on how I do this stuff. Hopefully it helps. So I'm going to keep sanding this until I get it to fit. And we'll take a look at it then. So mine's still more rectangular than square, but it's closer to square than it was before. Yeah. Now, because of the way my deck fit, I'm going to kind of change things up just a little bit. As you can see, I'm really close to being where I need to be. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to just pick a side, or fore and aft. I've decided this is going to be the aft side of it. I am going to remove a little bit of wood here until I get my fit. which means I've got to match our recesses there. I'm just using a file to do this. You can see how I'm kind of closing in on it there until I get it straight across. Then this file has an edge that doesn't cut. There's no file there, so I'm fairly confident that I can get my sides to match up there, straight across. That's looking pretty decent. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and file this down until I get a good fit. And this will be the aft side of my Samson post. Now, depending upon how your deck fits and how your slots are, you may have to make various adjustments. But this is how I'm going to do mine. So I'm going to go ahead and get this completely fit there, and we'll just look at the fit that I've managed to get. So I've got my Samson post fit into place. Now, it does look a little weird. Now, funny, the slot is so much wider than it actually needed to be. So I didn't do anything to the sides of it there, as you can see, but I do have the way I've sanded it here. It's a little peculiar looking, but it's all below deck, so it's not going to matter. What matters is that the relationship to the deck, and it looks correct. So yeah, that'll do. So now we need to drill a hole in this. So I need to find some drill bits. So now we need to drill us a hole. And you can still see where we are. That we use our triangular file to clear our pathway. So hopefully the drill bit will follow that. I'm starting out with a much smaller bit than the size of our brass rod there. And I'm only going to drill it halfway through. I hope. could drill it all the way through. I don't know. Kind of get it to meet in the middle there. And if we do it that way, the bit should guide itself true out the other side. Yeah, just like that. So now we have our hole through, and it appears to be, clean it up here, appears to be right where we want it. Now obviously it's not big enough, so I'm going to go through a few bits here and just remove a little bit of material at a time. I get that back in there. You probably can't see what I'm doing. There we go. So I know about what size I need to end up, which I might have to drill it bigger. Nah, it probably should work. So our rod here is 1.58 millimeter there. And this is going to be slightly larger. 169. Funny thing about wood, it kind of closes back up, so after your drill passes through it, so we kind of want to keep that in mind a little bit. We'll check it once we hit it with this bit here. And I don't want to really force it, because this is basswood. It is really soft, and I don't want to split it. So we'll drill about halfway in. go to the opposite side and drill halfway again. Actually, you'll feel it. It'll start to pull itself right on through the hole. There we go. There we go. Where's my brass rod? Yeah, that's just a little bit too tight for it. So I'm going to go ahead and drill this out. And then we're going to work with our brass rod and see where we're at there. After we get our final size, we do want to check and make sure that everything's going to sit like it's supposed to. Looks okay. It's not bad. So the worst thing would be is if it came out like that. So you don't want it like that, and you don't want it you know, kind of cockeyed there. So just take your time drilling it. The other thing is, if you drill like a quarter to halfway in one side and then the same thing on the opposite side, you don't have any tear out, because usually when a drill bit comes out the back side of the wood, it usually tears out fibers and stuff. So you can kind of eliminate that by starting in one side and then finishing the hole from the other. That way you don't have torn fibers. Yeah, it'd help if I was in focus, wouldn't it? Yeah, so you don't have any torn fibers there at your exit hole. So there we are. So now we got to cut our brass rod. So in my clamp here, I have the brass rod that came with the kit. Now that's the same brass rod that we use to make the link for our centerboard. But since we used a pair of pliers there to cut it, we got a bevel end on it there, and we don't kind of want that. We want it straight. So I need to cut that off. There we go. That's pretty straight. That's not too bad. But I do need to clean that up. I'm gonna use my file for that. And I'm shaking the camera, I'm sorry. Just we want a nice clean end on it there. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean this end up, and then we'll measure it out. So our instructions call for a 3/8 inch piece of rod. Mark it where I need to cut it. Now they are assuming that this is annealed, and you can roll your knife around it and then just snap it off. I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to use my cutters just past where I marked it. I don't know if you can see it or not, but just a little long. Let's see if I'm square. There we go. We'll have to hold it here. I think I'll be able to hold it and clean it up. Yeah, I should be able to clean it up. So I'm going to square this end and clean that up, and then we'll make sure that it's the right length before we commit to fixing it into place. Now to put this into place, to hold it, we're going to have to use some CA glue. So I'm going to be using the Star Bond medium. That's what I'm going to use. I do want to check the look of it. I don't want our cross piece to be too large. So here comes the tricky part. Need to get it even. I mean, if it's not even, I guess you can file it down. Till it is. I need to put a mark on it there. Well, we'll just do the best we can. I can't really see my mark. So, it doesn't take much to do this. Put just a little bit of CA glue on it there. And then I'm going to push it in where I want it. If it hasn't already grabbed. There we go. Got just a moment to fiddle with it there. And I'm still not in the middle. And my CA glue let go. Okay. Try it again. See if I get it right this time. There we go. That should look good. One Samson post. Now we're not going to glue this in yet. It tells us not to do that because we have to fit our bowsprit to it. So let's go look and see what our instructions want us to do next. All right, so we just took care of all this right here. And it does tell us right here, do not glue the post in place yet. It will need to be painted first. So, Samson post, not glued in, it's just sitting there. So we're in good shape. Next up are our oar-lock pads. Remove these from the carrier. Clean up and shape the bevels as indicated. Glue these to the deck. On their marks, make sure that their inner sides align with the edge of the cockpit. Sheet 3. So, we have sheet 3. Here are our oar-lock pads. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these out. I'm going to cut them out and clean them up, and we'll look at what we got to do to sand the bevels on these. Okay, so I don't think I agree with their sequencing. Big surprise. So this is the oar-lock pad. And here's where the oar-lock pads go. Now, we haven't shaped them yet. And I don't know if they're, I mean, they look high to me. But they sit just outside the coaming that goes around the cockpit here. And if we look, theirs don't look that. They're either bigger in dimension and the same height, or there's something going on there. So I think we can always put these on later. We don't have to put them on right now. So I think we're going to set these aside for now. Because when we come further on in the book and look, wherever it is, this picture here, the oar-lock pads are at the same height as the coaming that goes around the cockpit. So with that in mind, I would hate to put these on and have them too tall, you know, and have to reshape them, and that's going to be kind of hard to do on the boat. So we're just going to leave them off. We can always put those on later. I think the next thing we need to do is the coaming. And that's that piece there that goes around the cockpit. So let's do that. So the coaming is on sheet 5 there. And it's also where we got our cabin front that we used when we were spacing our deck and cleaning all this stuff up here. You know, so make sure everything would fit. So these are the next 2 pieces that we need to fix, I think. And we can always come back to our oarlock pads later. We just need to make sure we put these someplace where we don't lose them. And we can just go ahead and prep our pieces. Get rid of these fret tabs. And I am kind of debating on cutting this out right here. Now this is where our tiller goes. It'll be all the way to the back. I don't know that I want to cut it out yet, because if I do, then and it's not in the right spot. That could be a problem. That's number 1. Number 2, it'll make this much easier to break when we go to bend it. And I don't want to do that. So I'm going to leave that on when we shape it. After we shape it, we'll go ahead and cut it out. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and clean these up and get them ready. Now we're supposed to use boiling water and all that. I'm going to use my plank bender to do this, so that I think I'll be able to get a good consistent bend with it. With the plank bender. If you don't have a plank bender, then you're supposed to submerge them in boiling water, and then you bend it rather quickly. As long as it's hot, then you should be able to get your bend. But yeah, I'm going to use my plank bender on these. Okay, so I have this piece all ready to go. I've lightly sanded it just where it was connected to the fret. And we have our plank bending jig out. I am going to go ahead and plug this in and start warming up. And I want to soak this for about 10 minutes and let it absorb moisture, water. And we're going to start bending it. Okay, here we go. I've got a couple of clamps, and I checked them to make sure that they will open up wide enough for us to use them, because we're going to clamp this into place just to make sure it doesn't slide. Now I imagine it's going to shrink just a little bit, but you know, it's kind of how these things go. So I need to warm it up in the middle here, and I'm just going to use the flat side of my bender right now. See what we can do here. And if we have any trouble, we can always put it back in the water. Try it again, which I think I may do. Yeah, I'm not getting the result I wanted. I'm going to soak it again. We'll give it another shot here. All right, we'll try our bending again. Okay. I'm going to put it on this side of the bending jig this time. Trying to approximate the right bend here. It's not wanting to behave for me there. It is kind of a funny curve. Let's see if we can get this on the boat while it's still hot. Oops. Yeah, there we go. Get that straightened out right there on that. Got a little bit of a straight stretch there that we don't need. That looks better. Looking much better there. Keep going. I know I'm shaking the camera. I'm sorry. I do apologize for that. Trying to keep it from creasing right there where that laser cut is. I would rather they not do that, to be honest with you. Because that does put a weak spot in it. It makes it want to do something I don't want it to do. Need more of a turn right here. Just put some water on it there and let the heat force it down into the wood. We're getting there. Help me out here. There we go. Just checking to see that our cutout is right where it's supposed to be. Now we need to get this down in there. Don't know why. This side seems longer than the other side. So something's wrong here. The symmetry of it is not quite right. See where we end up here at this notch where our oarlock pad goes? Over here, not so much. And then here in the middle, well, we're obviously not in the middle. Yeah. So a little bit of repositioning here. Push it on around. Just push it, push it. Well, my piece appears to be a lot bigger than I expected it to be. I expected it to swell with the water. And it seems to have more swell to it than I anticipated. And I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be standing vertical right through here. And we're not. I don't know really how you would do this without a plank bender. I don't know if it's supposed to be. I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to you and I'm talking to myself. That's the funny part. Get it pressed in as good as I can get it here. I know you probably can't see what I'm doing. I'm using my thumbs to pull it into the corners there. If it's sitting on it's just too long. We will make it work. I'm gonna make it work. Okay, so there we are. So I do need to do something about it not being vertical. Maybe I can just push it over with my finger. Yeah. Well, it actually went better than I thought it was going to. It's always a plus, isn't it? I think maybe I need to overhang this just a little bit. like that. Instead of letting it slip down inside there. So I can pull that other side a little bit more. Just close. If I can get these notches to kind of hit at the same point, I'm going to call it good and just let it rest. I may put more water on it after I get it clamped into place. Well, the whole thing slid. Fiddly. Well, that's the best fit I've gotten so far. I'm pretty sure these ends are supposed to pop down in there, but it's too long. Ever so little bit there. And you can see that little notch that they've got in the back there. Mine's nowhere close to the backrest of the aft seat there. Interesting. So I'm just taking my thumb and pressing, and my finger, thumbs and fingers, and pressing it vertical. Or what I think is vertical. There we go. All right, before we do any more messing with it, I'm just going to let it dry. Let it dry out completely. I think it's going to shrink some and we'll be able to pull the corners in and it pop in exactly like it's supposed to. So we're going to give it some time to dry there and let it form itself up before I fool around and split it. That wouldn't be good. Okay, so I've let it dry completely. And I managed to get this one side down. The other side's still up a little bit there. So I just want to make sure that I'm pushed all the way into those little arcs there. Like so. I'm going to put a little mark here. And right there. Now we can kind of pop this out. And you can see where what it looks like, how much needs to be trimmed off there. I'm going to go ahead and trim it. See how close I get. Let's see how close we get. Let's see. Let's zoom in a little bit here. I want to do the final by sanding it. Now, since it was raised and not fully seated, the angle may change on me. I'm kind of cutting this away from me. I can't really... In the interest of a better picture or video, it's a little hard to do. We'll get it here. Yeah, there we go. I think for the other one, I'll just sand that a bit. See if we can't get that to go in. I'm going to start off by just sticking it into the slot there. See where we're at. Yeah. Probably help if I just clamp it so it doesn't pop back up over here. We're close. So I'm going to go ahead and keep doing this, making sure that it's fully seated. Since I have it clamped on this side, I just push it over in here, hold it in, and then pull it down into the next turn. Catch that arc. And then making sure that we're actually above into the slot there on those frames, because if you're down below it, it'll not be sitting correctly. And yeah, so I need to take off just a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and fit this into place, and we'll look at it once I get it in there. Okay, so we've got it all fit. Now, as you can see on mine, this little laser cut right here for where our tiller goes doesn't match up, and that's okay. We'll just cut a new one. So I'm going to mark the edges of where our tiller slot is in the backrest there of our seat. And the other thing I want to do is I want to measure where the top of this slot is and the top edge of our coaming here, and it looks like about 3.5 mils. And if we flip around on the back side, we're at about 3 mils. And I'm going to allow for the thickness of our deck here, so I'm going to cut mine probably 4 mils, maybe 4.5 mils. Yeah, I think 4.5 mils is probably good, because I don't want the deck to show below the edge of the coaming here in this slot. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, when you take these measurements and everything, make sure that your coaming is set down on top of the frames, you know, all the way around. because if it's a little, it's a little cockeyed, then your measurements aren't going to come out right. Now, these are my measurements. You need to measure your boat, all right, because they're probably not going to be the same. So with that measured out, and I know about where I want to go, about 4.5 mils down from the top of the coaming. And I'm going to go ahead and cut that slot out. So I can go ahead and remove this. And it's just a matter of moving that slot right where I want it there. And I'll just go ahead and cut and trim that little piece out right there. And then we'll recheck the fit. All right, so we have our slot cut out there for our tiller. And you can probably clearly see how far off their laser cut is from where mine end up. Now, I don't know if my boat is that lopsided and their laser cut's right, or vice versa, or a little bit of the both there, but that's kind of what we got going on there. Now, what they want us to do next is they want us to paint halfway down on this and then glue it into place at the same time that we paint our Samson post, but we're not going to do that. I'm just going to remove our Samson post. Need to get that out of the way. And I'm going to go ahead and form the cabin area because we do have these skirts that are going to form a midship coaming here. And they all got to be kind of fit into place. And as you can see, if you look at how this has got a tab on it, fits into the slot there, it kind of looks like this should be flush in order for those pieces to kind of fit together in a puzzle. So we're not going to glue this in yet. We're going to go ahead and form our cabin. So I'm going to go ahead and get this coaming out of the way here for our cockpit area. I'm going to put it someplace safe so we don't break it. And we're going to work on this. Now, same thing, we're going to use our plank bender here to do that. But what I need to know is I need to know where the middle is here because we have 2 ports there, portals. So the easiest way to do this is just to use your compass. So I'm going to take my compass and I'm going to use the same point on both ends there. Now you can use the slot there if you want to. I'm going to use the portals there. Make me a line this way. I'm going to do the same thing to the opposite side. And that kind of gives me 2 lines marked there. And what I'm looking for is the middle. And this is just easier to do this way than it is to try to use a ruler. So I'm going to go ahead and make me 2 more marks. There's that one. And there's that. Oh, look at that. Kind of lucky there. So that's the middle. That's where we're at in the center. So we'll just go ahead and get rid of these other reference points here where we set our compass up. And so that's kind of quick, fast, and in a hurry way to find the middle of the cabin area here. Just using a compass. I don't know how long it is, and I don't need to know. All I need to know is where the center between those 2 points are. So now that we've got that, that's where it's going to line up in the center of the deck there, just like so. So that's where we need to start our bend. And of course, you know, it's going to bend on around, and we need it to conform to this curve here. And that is, it'll be interesting to know if these tabs actually sit down inside there. But I'm not going to know that until I get it bent. So I'm going to go ahead and soak this in water. get the boat out of the way there. I'm going to go ahead and soak this in water. I'm going to give it about 15 minutes. That way it'll soak up plenty of water and we'll have plenty of bend time. And we'll be able to use our bender here to hopefully affect that curve and get everything fit into the cabin area. And the other thing is that I'm looking here at our jig. I want to find, you know, the best area to do our bending so that we can try to match as close as possible that deck curve. And as you can see, if we start just to port and starboard of the center of this on our bend, and we bend it to this curve right here, then we ought to be, it ought to be a game on. So we ought to be able to get that done. Huh? So that's fortuitous that is that specific curve. So I'm gonna go stick this in some water. Okay, so here we have our plank and it's soaked with water, so we're in good shape there. Now, because of the way the deck rises, I'll flip it around here. With the cabin, the front part of the cabin is higher than the rear part of the cabin, and also the coaming that goes around there. So when I place this on my jig, I need to keep that in mind, because what I don't want, if I bend the plank like this, I will get a twist in it, and I don't want that. I want it to rise pretty much evenly there. So I'm going to give this a shot. Now, if it doesn't work out, we can always stick it back in water and try it again. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So we're going to have to get it bent here. Trying to maintain that angle. And you can always re-wet it and continue your bend. May have to smooth that out a little bit there. Check my angle here. Just got through telling you about the angle and I'm already messing it up. So, I think we're doing okay, maybe. Maybe we're doing all right. All right. So while it's still hot, I got to get it stuck in place here. Hopefully we're not going to burn ourselves. Very gently curve it around. I'm going to have to get it tucked in. I'm using my center line there to let me know where I've got to go. As feared, it appears to be a little bit longer on the side there. Oh, maybe I went in. Maybe. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know by how much though. As you can see the deck. I'm not getting down inside of it there. So what are we going to do? All right, so we got our basic curve going, so that's good. The thing to do, I think, and we're going to have to re-wet this and give it another shot a little bit later on, but I think I need to get that major curve going. I've got some little pieces of cardboard here, thin cardboard, that I've already cut that I can stick in place. So if I keep those notches pushed up, then I should be able to, hopefully, maybe clamp it. Yeah. So I need to figure out how I'm going to clamp this. Now they use dowels in the front and rubber bands, but since it doesn't fit into place, that's kind of problematic. And both these end up in the same spot, as you can see, well, pretty much, almost, right at the hole there for our oar locks there. So I think we're on the right track. So my plan I need to get a clamp on. Now, I do have some bar clamps here. I can get one. There we go. Of course, I get the one that's sticking. There we go. I'm not very prepared, am I? Now, these are just little old cheap 4-inch bar clamps. I probably should have spent more money on them than I did. Don't know. Yeah, I think that'll be all right. I'm going to lay it on the deck. Like so. Try to stay out of the tow rail. I don't want to crush anything because everything is wet. So I'm okay right there. And I think for right here, I need to figure out a way to get it to stand up. Let's see. How to get it to stand up. Because I need it in the vertical. If I space it at the bottom with something, I can put a rubber band around it at the top. Maybe some of this. cut me some pieces here. Space it out from the tow rail. Yeah, like so. Maybe throw me a rubber band across the top of it there. Pull the top edge in some. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. If I can find me another little block like that. Rubber bands, big blocks, little blocks. We got all kinds of blocks here. Get those out of the way. There's a couple pieces. Here we go. I need that right there. I know you're watching me sort. I didn't really think this through, did I? So I'm shimming it against the tow rail because piece of cardboard. There we go. Because the tow rail is, well, I done lost my clamp there. We'll come back to that. It just needs to hold it while it's drying. So I need to pull these in. I don't know, they might be okay. I think I need to slide down around my window there. Yeah, more down around the window. We can always shim it out when we go to glue it in, but yeah, we're gonna do that right there. Give me a rubber band here. Just to pull the tops in. Yeah. I'm gonna put my clamp back on here. Ever so lightly. Just to keep it in the vertical. Just like that. I'm gonna let that dry. And then we'll come back and rework the front of it here. And we'll have to trim down where it extends below deck there so that it'll ease itself down inside there. That's my plan anyway. Or it might ease itself down in there after it completely dries, because wood does shrink. It expands when it's wet and it shrinks when it dries. So hopefully that'll work to our benefit. So we're gonna have to leave that alone, quit messing with it. And if it doesn't come out just right, we can always stick it back in the water and start over. So it's not that great big of a deal, as long as we don't break it. So I've given this plenty of time to dry. In fact, I've just let it dry overnight. So I need to kind of see where we're at here. And I'm not really happy with this bend right here, but we'll deal with that in a minute or an hour. Whatever. Pull our spacers out there. We need to get our rubber band off here. And our blocking. So we do have some adjustments to make, but that's okay, we can do that. that's not a real big issue. The issue is to get this to sit down. So we got our basic shape, and we'll take care of these little bows and stuff later. And that's the cool thing about basswood, is that it is really easy to reshape. So what we need to do is get the front of our cabin area here to actually sit down. And we're going to have to relieve right here, this little back side of that notch so that it'll slide in. And we can just do that, I think, just by sanding it here. A little bit on both sides. It doesn't really matter if there's a little gap, because that'll be down inside the hole there and next to the deck, so you're not going to see it. What we want it to do, we want it to fall into place here. And then we can re-wet it and pull it up into the arc of the deck there. That's kind of my plan to get this cabin area here fit. I mean, I want it to be as snug as I can get it, but I don't want it to be so snug that we have issues with glue and all of that. Because as you know, this wood glue kind of grabs. So when it comes time to glue everything together, we're really going to want to move with that. So I'm getting closer. So I'm going to keep working on this until I get it to drop in. I don't want to change the profile of the deck. I think it's probably right where it needs to be. So I'm just going to keep sanding these until I get it to drop in, and then we're going to straighten everything out. So one of the things that I found that is happening is that these tabs, once I've gotten the front of the cabin area to go down into the deck area, and yes, there's still space there, don't worry about that, we'll take care of that. But I can't get it flush and at the correct angle because these tabs are kind of holding us off. So I am going to have to trim these back. I just need to mark where they're at. And I'll trim them down so that I can get this part of the coaming that comes off of our cabin area to lay flat against the deck. Because with these laying flat against the deck, that kind of sets the rise for the cabin. And that way we'll know exactly where it's all supposed to sit. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. And then we'll recheck the fit on it. And then we'll start working our curve here right into the edge of the deck there. Okay, so we've got a lot going on here. Let me just go ahead and walk you through. I went ahead and trimmed those tabs back so that this coaming section here will sit down against the deck. And I just placed a rubber band around the tails of it there so we can get that angle correct, because that affects, you know, how the forward part of our cabin is thrust up, because it doesn't set flat into those slots. And we do, with these coamings here flat against the deck, we are coming right up on our frame there, as you can see. And that's good, because now we do know for sure that we've got a good reference point there on the corners for our cabin structure to sit. So I've got that in place. Also, the picture in the manual shows I'm using dowels to help pull this gap together there. I couldn't get any 3/16 in there where it was in the area where I wanted it to go. So I do have some 1/8 inch dowel. So I cut me a couple of 1/8 inch dowels, and I made them long so that they'll go all the way down and past the little frame down there inside that we had put in way back when for holding our mast. So you do have all of that to deal with down inside there. In addition to those, I have cut some 1/32 inch thick pieces of plank. Now this is excess plank, doesn't come in the kit. Now, you can use the planking fret that came with the kit to make you some shims and stuff. And so I'm thinking that I'll be able to maybe slide this in behind the dowel to force the dowel to close that gap. So that's my thinking on that. I hope that works out. In addition to that, where the bulkhead goes here on frame 4, which is that split frame, the gaps are different sizes on starboard versus port. And I have went and sanded this down, if you can see the taper on it there, to fill that gap with, because when we go to glue this up, we're going to want it to be vertical. And I'm currently sanding and fine-tuning this one, which is going to do the same thing for us on the opposite side. So I do need to thin it out. And I'm just going to, other than shaking the camera, sorry about that. I probably should do that off camera. So, I don't want it excessively snug. I need it to actually just slide down in there. And I want it to bottom out. So I need a uniform thickness. That way, when we go to glue it up, if it's too snug, you're just going to smear your glue off and you're not going to get a good joint. So, and I don't know if you can see down in there, but I'm not all the way down. Well, I mean, I am if I put a lot of pressure on it, but I don't want it that tight. So I need to make sure that it's uniform. And I think I will probably glue these into place. We'll get to that later. The most important thing is that we have these ready so that when we are reforming the cab itself, that we can I keep calling it cabin section, that we can put those into place temporarily while everything dries for the second time once we get those gaps closed up. So I think I'm about ready to yeah, I'm about ready now. So this is a bit much. I need to cut that off. That's too tall. That'll be in my way. So preparation is always the key to success. So just make sure that you got a clear view in your head there of how you want everything to go. Now that doesn't mean it's going to go that way. But, you know, start with a plan. And now I also have, show you this, because there's a gap there. I've formed me a little wedge that I can push in there to close that gap up. I need to make one for the opposite side to close that gap up. And you just sand taper a little wedge there. And you can just put it into place. And when you insert this, you need to insert it down next to the deck, because it's that deck line right there is where you're closing up the gap. So I've got that one made. I need to make one for the opposite side there, because you can see we do have a gap there. And the whole idea is when I wet this a second time and start pushing it all into place, that I can close up these gaps on the deck. In addition to that, I have some blocking that I'm going to be able to put in between the tow rail and the cabin area, and then we'll just slide some shims in to keep it nice and tight. So we want our gentle curve through here, so we're going to have to be careful where we're going to put these. And that one, well, that'll probably work. That'll probably work. So you want to kind of think this stuff through a little bit before you get there, just in case you've got to modify a block or something. So yeah. So that's the idea. So let me finish taking care of these, and then we're going to go ahead and wet that and start pushing that into place. Now, ideally, we can get this perfect, but that might be a little bit too much to ask. But anyway, I'm just applying water. This is a second application of the water there, letting it soak into the basswood. And we're going to start coaxing this into the curve of the deck there. As it dries, it's going to shrink, and we may have to make an adjustment. So that's kind of one of those things that we're just going to have to play with. I may not need to shim underneath it there. I may be able to get it just with a rubber band or two. Yeah, what do I do with my rubber band? We'll loop the rubber band around like so. I want the rubber band up kind of high. I don't want it down on top of our cabin wall there. Adjust our angle here. We need to pull it forward. A lot of fiddling here, but you know. I think we've got that gap closed up pretty good. So the next thing we need to do, I'm going to put my wedges in. I want to double check that my reference points here, that I haven't pushed this down in the front. So it looks good. So I think I need to put my wedges in now. Now these are to close up that little area there at the deck. Like so. Get that one closed up. See if I can't close up the one on the opposite side here. Well, twist myself around here into a pretzel. There we go. Yeah, that's nice. All right, so we got that done. Looking good. So I do want to do some corrections here. That being said, we need to keep this vertical as best we can. We'll go ahead and wet this. Let that soak in a little bit there. May even wedge it out just a little bit right there. So we got a nice gentle curve there. It's kind of what I'm looking for. You do need to be careful around these portals here. Just want to make sure that they're not deformed. So now all we need to do, probably, I hope, I think I just ran out of the camera. We're going to get these in right here, and the one I thinned out for the opposite side, just like so. And now I want to shim this in. So that we're holding it tight there. If I'm getting out of the camera range here, I'm sorry. I'm using the tow rail to help us with that. Now I do want to make sure that it's vertical, or as vertical as I can judge. It looks good, actually. So we've got that nice gentle curve going there. Most of those areas that we had that had those little straight bends, you know, the sharper bends to it there. We're getting that to kind of come out there. And once you get your deck on, you're probably not going to see a lot of that. So, okay, so there we are. Just make sure our coaming is down. I don't know, what do you think? Make sure we're at our reference points here and here. Looks good. It looks like we've closed up those gaps there. The rubber band will keep tension on it. And as it dries, it's going to shrink, so just keep that in mind. But I think we're in really good shape here. Looks good. So we're going to let this dry. Let it dry completely. Give it an hour or two. It'll dry pretty quick. So humidity's low, so yeah, we'll let that dry. Okay, so I've let it dry completely. Now I just want to check and make sure everything is all the way down in place there. Because wood swells when it's wet and it shrinks when it's dry. Yeah, that's right where I want it to be when we go to reassemble it. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to take my pencil here. And I'm going to mark. And that's my insert no further than this line. Whoops. That's kind of a bad mark there. Help if it's all the way down. Yeah. That's the insert no further than here line. Yeah, that's where we want it. Okay, so I'll go ahead and pull all this out and remove our piece. I'm not too worried about this right here. This, after we glue it in, we're going to come back and we'll get that little, those two little points, yeah, out of it, and that's okay. That'll be fine. So you can re-wet this. You can also lose your shim. You don't want to lose these because they are specific. So we're going to put those back. We're going to actually glue those in before we glue our cabin area in. Oh, I got to get my shims out. That should prove interesting. That one come out pretty good. So they should be looser than when we put them in because everything's dry now. Everything's shrunk away from it. Yeah, we'll probably use those again when we go to do our glue up just to make sure that we got everything pressed into place correctly. Let me just pop this right up. Well, there we go. That's nice. Yeah, that's going to work good. Okay. Next thing to do is to glue in our two little shim areas here. Yeah, thin one here. Watch me get them mixed up. I just need it flush with our frame there. I also want to take and make sure that it's pressed all the way up against it there. Yeah, just like that. So that one's pressed in. I'll remove this little sliver here in just a moment. Our thick one goes on over here. That should be good enough. We're going to trim these down. Just got to get it in place there. Don't need anything holding us off there. Make it easy to trim up. It looks good. I need to shim that as well. Somewhere. Here we go. So this is at 1/32 planking that I ordered for our, when we was doing the frames and everything. It's the same thickness as the coaming in our cabin area. So that works good as a spacer there. because we're going to put something of equal size back in there. Now, while that dries, we go back to our cockpit section here. And I need to sand it. I am not going to paint it the way they told us to, because it's going to be painted white and the deck's going to be painted white, and I don't see the reason why I should need to do that. Of course, I mean, it's up to you. You can do, you know, whatever you feel like doing. Because we are going to do some sanding and cutting and all that stuff on these after it's all cleaned up and installed. Now what I really want to do right now, so I'm kind of debating, should I do it now or should I wait until after it's all installed? And I think I'm just going to go ahead and do it now. And that'll be to fill and sand that laser mark right there. Because it's going to show up through the paint. I think it's probably easier to do it now. And I believe that it will flex enough that it won't be an issue. It won't pop out. I hope it doesn't pop out. That would be bad. And I mean, if it does, then this is easy enough to do again. As you can see, there it is, it's on. So I'm gonna let that dry, and I'm gonna sand it flush. And then we'll be ready to install that one. We need to go ahead and put that one in. Just trying to get my shims out here. Okay. So, giving these enough time to dry, we're ready to go. Just need to clip them off. Like so. Yeah, just like that. Where are we at? Here we go. So I do want to trim it down. I'm just going to use my razor chisel here to do that. Should just practically split off there, which it did. This one's going to be a little thicker. I don't want it to split off to the inboards there. There we go. Got it going our way now. Doesn't have to be flush. I just don't want a lot of excess in there. Then we'll take our little block plane here, or sander. I'm just going to sand it off even with the top of the frame. Just like that. Because this is going to get sanded again when we go to put our cabin roof on. There we go. So that's all trimmed up. Looks good. I know I said looks good and keep sanding, huh? Okay. So that's good. I've already sanded this. So I do want to set it back into place here. Make sure everything is still right where we left it. A little, there we go. There we go. So we want it to sit right on top of those notches there. And frames, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Frames 7 and 8 there. And it does. So I'm going to do the same thing here that I did on the cabin area. Making sure it's all the way down, yeah. Put me a line here. Insert no further than this. So there we go. We're ready to glue this in. Ready to glue. All right, let me get some glue together. And we're going to go ahead and place this in place. So really it's just a matter of getting some glue in here. On frame 7 and 8, especially 8 back here, you just really need the glue down on the bottom of it there. Because it's not really going to hold much. Well, I should say, not much of it's in contact. And we'll put it right along the deck edge there. So make sure that you have some water and a clean brush standing by. Now, right after shaping this, they wanted us to install it. Now, we didn't do it that way. Because I wanted to make sure that there wasn't nothing in my way when I was doing the forward section. I just felt that that was a better approach. Because we are going to have to trim those little long legs that come off of the cabin area so that it ties in with the coaming of our cockpit. So that's kind of my thinking there. However flawed it may be. Just kind of. All right. It's about all it takes. It's probably more than it needs. Push it right down into place there. Come on. There we go. So there we are, we're in. And we're right on our line. So that's good. I have to do some cleanup here. Pretty typical. I need some water. Help dissolve that glue up. Okay. Just like so. And yes, we're going to have to come back in and do some fine sanding, but that's all right. Make sure we don't have any big globs of glue here. All right, so that's good. Now we're setting down, top those frames. Well, it's not going to fall out. That's a good thing. I'm going to give it some time to dry. And I think what we need to do next, well, actually, we can do that right now. I want to check this. Probably should zoom out on my camera, so you can see what I'm doing here. There we go. So as you can see, we're going to have to trim these to fit. And I'm going to have to kind of butt it up there to glue it into place. Before I can do that though, I am definitely going to have to sand both of these down flush with the deck there for our cockpit coaming, because it protrudes too much. I mean, there's another option. You could try notching the coaming here on the bottom there to fit like a puzzle, but that's just too much to ask from me. I would probably really mess that up. So I'm just going to flush sand it down. What I really want to do though, I think I will place these to the inside like that. And if I can get in there and mark it, that'll give me a better idea. That's not a sand down to line. That's a line to allow me to sand it even in line with the deck edge, because I'm not really getting all the way up in there. And then after we got that in place, we can glue the cabin area in. Does that make sense? I hope so. Get that out of the way. Yeah, so you can see our line down in there. I'm not going to sand down to it. We're going to sand, parallel, flush to the deck. I just want to make sure that as I'm sanding, I can see where I'm going with it. Probably some glue there I missed. You don't want to miss that stuff. Now, once it dries, you're kind of stuck with it, quite literally. So I'm going to let this dry, and then we're going to sand those down. So I'm going to start, I've already kind of notched it there. It's kind of a way to keep it from tearing out and splitting. Up into that coaming there. We don't want to do that. I can remove most of it, I think, with just my modeling chisel here. I'm really careful. Yeah, it does want to slide down. I was kind of worried about that. kind of reduce the amount of sanding we have to do. Yeah, it cuts much better this way. Just don't want to get into the deck. Close is good. Sandpaper will take care of the rest of it. So I'll get the other one done. So this is that sanding stick for doing the fairing that I never did use. I'm using it to get in here and get the rough sanding down flush there. Being careful. Don't really want to get into the deck. Just need it flush. Yeah, that's it. There we go. So I've already done the other side. Now they tell us when you're installing this to make sure that it's not protruding above our oarlock pads. So I'm really glad we didn't put those in. We'll put them in later, because that would have just been a mess. Trying to clean this all up around those pads. Yeah, that would have been bad. All right, so I got that done. Now I need to reinstall our cabin area here. Make sure it's down. On my pencil mark. Now I got to mark these because we need to trim these to fit. And that's going to be interesting. As we do this, we are just going to take off enough. You got to remember that your pencil line's on the inside, so you're not going to want to sand or cut all the way up to the line. So you need to have a little space there between the line itself, like that, maybe a 1/2 millimeter or so, and then we'll fine tune it. That way we don't have, hopefully we don't have a gap, because it really needs to butt up nicely, and it's going to be a hard thing to add more in there. So I'm going to go ahead and trim these down, and we'll check our fit. Probably have to do just a little bit of sanding to fit it, but you get the idea. So we're all trimmed in here. When I go to glue these up, I'm going to use these clamps, I think, just to put them right on the splice there. Hold it together. Hold it together. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. So, I think it's glue time. Got my brush, got my water, got my glue, got my clamps. We're going to glue it. Going to do this exactly the same way we did the coaming around the cockpit. This yellow glue does set up quick, so we need to keep it moving. Keep it moving. Get some glue down in these slots here. It's going to get tricky quick. On these, I'm going to put it right on the bottom here, just to have something to get us on the deck. And it's just going to lay in place. And we'll press it down, maybe put a rubber band on it. There we go. Get the excess glue off our tool there. There we go. Yeah, you don't want to be stubborn right when I get the glue on you, don't you? Of course. Still got my line there because I'm going to have to push it to get it down in there. So get that. All of a sudden it's bigger than it was a minute ago. Yeah, I'm on my line. Come on down. Yeah. There we go. It is so funny how that glue, I need a little bit more glue right there. Couldn't hurt to put more over here. Okay. Gonna have to use the old paintbrush, clean this up. Just like so. Get some water on it there. It's drying up on me that quick. Don't forget about the inside. Get that all scraped up there. Put a clamp on, yeah. Just right here. Let it lay on the deck. It's not that tight, so it's just on there. And I need to clamp these up Done lost the other one. Just like that. Now we can go ahead and finish our cleanup here of all this glue. That's all of our squeeze out. Just like that. I will go and check the front. Make sure that that's all good. Looks really good. I don't think I need to put my wedges in, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. Find my tweezers. Of course. Well, maybe it goes better the other way. Yeah, that's good. Right there on the deck line. So as it dries, it doesn't try to pull away. There we go. Looks good. We're in there. All right, time to let that dry. Okay, so we got our Samson post done. It's not glued in yet. And we also got our coaming around the cockpit area taken care of, along with the cabin section and the coaming that comes down. And we got those mated up. So yeah. Now, one of the things that we didn't do is we did not do the oarlock pads yet. And I'm still kind of glad that I didn't try to do that, because they would have been in the way here, because we still yet have to match the height of these together. We'll do that in the next video. But I think we're looking pretty good. And I really wish they hadn't put in those little laser cuts there for the indication of where they wanted us to cut that slot for our tiller. But they did, and well, we managed to get past that, so we're in good shape. So I know this video has been long, so that's going to be it for this one. Look for the next one next Wednesday. Yeah, next Wednesday. So special thanks to all my subscribers. It's because of you guys that I keep making these videos, and I hope that you enjoyed this one. And yeah, if you're new to the channel, I hope I earned your subscription. So if you're building this boat, let me know. Let me know how it's going. I'd like to hear from you. So until I see you next week, you guys stay safe.